So welcome to our Spring Equinox gathering. So nice to see familiar faces and new faces. And looks like we have visitors. Oh, Vanita, you're here from Ojai. What a blessing. Haven't seen you in a while. I'm looking for your face. And Sue from Little River. Barbara from Victoria, Australia. Jessica from Sierra Mountains in Northern California. Lots of snow. Well, that's good for our rainfall and our rivers in the spring. Shelley in Burlington. John, Jersey Shore. I have spent many years at the Jersey Shore.
Jersey Shore.
Josh from Idaho, welcome. And May from London. And, oh, it's the Persian New Year. Amazing. Ron from Mesa Prieta, New Mexico. Lynn from New Mexico. Chrissy from Cocoa, California. Oh, beautiful. It's a new place for me. And Athena from Robson Valley, the Canadian Rockies, the highest peak in the Canadian Rockies. Amazing. We have Tulsa, Oklahoma, Toronto, Utah. This is very exciting. Arizona, Florida. Nevada City. Hi, Stephanie. We're here in Grass Valley, neighboring town. And I always like to know where people are coming from, because when we do these kinds of events and we're connecting all over the world, we're also connecting in particular through the specific grid point that each of us are on the planet. So we're going to be sending blessings to the lands that you're on and down to the heart of our Mother Earth, and just really connecting us all together across this beautiful web of our world. And so thank you for joining us for this spring equinox. The spring equinox, which is in the northern hemisphere, and it's equal day and equal night. So even though it's the fall equinox in the southern hemisphere, we're still having the same thing happen. We're still having this moment of balance. And it's on these portals of the year, the equinoxes and the solstices, that are powerful planetary alignments for us to have the ear of the universe, so to speak. And the spring equinox is considered the birthday of the year. So if you were feeling like you didn't quite get your New Year's resolutions off the ground for January 1st, no problem, because here we are at the true birthday that aligns with the seasons and with nature. And we have a beautiful program planned for today. Myself, Reya, Manna, Michael Joseph. We have Adrienne Elise joining us, and Russell Anderson, and David Avocado Wolfe. So today we'll be interweaving prayers and blessings, some information about what's happening on the planet at this time with these planetary alignments. We'll learn about primary water, we'll learn about structured water. So we're going to weave in and out of the masculine and the feminine. We're going to weave into the material plane and then up into the dream world. And we're so glad to have all of us joined in this unified field. So it's said that the power of our unified field is enhanced exponentially by the number of people present. So it looks like right now there's 84 people, and that is 84 times 84 is the impact that we're having in the spiritual action. So I also invite you, if you have pen and paper, or if you have some place that you want to write down your intentions, we are at this birthday portal working on anchoring in the higher realms, into the more rarefied causal field, what it is we'd like to see for ourselves, for our communities, for our land as the year unfolds. So it's a really powerful time to come together to get really clear and intentional about the energy and the vibration that we're holding for ourselves. A reminder that I was leading a retreat in Egypt a couple years ago, and it was on May 1st, which is Beltane. and dealing with group dynamics and being in Egypt. It's a really powerful vortex. And I went to my co-facilitator to talk about some issues we were having, and she looks at me and she says, just remember, we're on a portal day, so we're creating with our thoughts, we're creating with anything we're holding in our consciousness. So I invite us into that remembrance, that let this be a time to access our highest possibility. Also, we're in this moment in between eclipses. We had a total lunar eclipse last Thursday. Today we have the spring equinox, and next Saturday we have a solar eclipse. So we're inside this eclipse portal. And this is also said to be in Vedic astrology, this portal that brings us into a new era. The Vedic New Year begins on March 30th. March 29th, 30th, depending on where you are in the world. And what they're saying is that this is the end of the Kali Yuga, the age of darkness, and the ushering in of the Sat Yuga, the age of light. And this new age has also been prophesied by the Mayan, by the Mexica, by the Hopi, as this time for unity consciousness, this time for love, for harmony, for peace. And when we're working with the water is such a beautiful representation to us of this awareness of group consciousness. The water is both a drop and it's the entire ocean. And so for each of us, we're individual discrete units, and we make up the totality of consciousness when we put us all together. And the face of the divine isn't a singular face. It's made up of all of our faces, all of our lives, all of our hearts. And so we're coming into this time of this recognition of the importance of the we, and how to navigate this field of unity, how to navigate this field of the group, and how to tend to the collective in addition to taking care of ourselves. Okay. Amplified. All right, I'm just checking these comments.
Is everyone able to hear? Okay, there's a few comments that some folks are having an issue. Yeah?
Okay,
good?
So I turned up our microphone a bit. Hopefully that fixes the issue. Okay, and Adrienne, you have it fixed. And Michael, hello.
Hi.
So nice to see
Reya.
you here.
Nice to be here in the Viking manner.
Would you like to say anything about the spring equinox, about the water, about intention setting as a kind of intro to bring us into the door?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's important for us to be in a constant reminder of our power and our potential, individually and collectively, right? So what I love about the equinox is it's a time for us to find our way back into a space where we can remind ourselves of these particular practices and awarenesses. And honestly, it's something that I haven't practiced that much in my life, and I have most recently, and I find them very powerful. And it's really wonderful to see so many intentional hearts, intentional beings joining us for this. I just would like a show of nods of heads. Is that why you're here? Is this what brings you here? Right? Is the collective awareness, is a renewal of our thoughts, a renewal of our intentions? Because as Reya was saying, every thought, word, and deed affects everything around us. And water, which is one of our primary purposes for gathering today, is a great ally for our intentions. And it wants to merge with our intentions. It wants to merge with what our heart is expressing. So it's very important that we are aware and we are conscious and we're in a state of renewal, in a state of cleansing, and being very thoughtful about what we are feeling and what we're saying, whether it's coming out of this, which is powerful, or what's going on in our subconscious, right? It not only trains our nervous system, but it's training the water. It's training the water to reflect back to us what it is that we're expressing. So water is such a great ally. So that's why I believe we're here. That's certainly why I'm here. So.
Beautiful. Thank you, Michael. And one thing that Michiko Hayashi, who has the Emoto Peace Project, that she has shared is that water is also a reflection of our consciousness. Water is listening all the time. And so if we're looking at the waters being polluted, if we're seeing that there's a disturbance in the water, it's actually just showing us what we're holding in the collective. So as we can work to purify our own consciousness, then it purifies the water. And as we work to hold the waters clean, it reminds our own bodies of how to live in that state of purity and clean. And there's a beautiful quote that I found recently from Veda Austin. And it's that water is the rebel element. It won't conform to the laws of physics or gravity, and it can't be killed. Without it, there is no life. It reincarnates for all to see, and science tells us it came to Earth from outer space. Rebellious, nonconformist, eternal, and alien, just look at the power we are filled with. So we work with this divine mystical substance that can't be killed, that is 70% of our body, 70% of our world. And so if we think of ourselves again as individual discrete units, we may not have very much power. But when we come together in a group field, the impact of that power is amplified exponentially. When we come together on these portal days of equinoxes and solstices and more, and when we join together with our Mother Earth, when we join together with the water as our ally. So right now we're inviting in the water as part of our group. And what a shift that does to the impact that our prayers are capable of, the impact that our intentions are capable of.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say a prayer and open sacred space, and then I'll lead us, Michael and I will sing a song, and then we'll move over to Adrienne, and she'll share some wisdom with us. So again, we're on a journey both of in an experiential nature, and so we're weaving in and out of information and wisdom and weaving out of more ethereal ceremonial space. So I invite you to bring your intentions and to tune in, to be an inquiry about what is your highest vision, what is the highest version of yourself. And
we're not able to let more people in. Can we change that? Because David Avocado Wolfe's not able to get in. How can we change that?
I thought you did.
We've run into a wall.
Oh, we've had a little issue. Thanks. Okay.
Yeah, you're at 100. Woo woo.
Yeah.
There's some more people trying to get in, and they're texting me, so we have to make an adjustment.
So we have to make an adjustment to our time.
Pardon us.
So let's see. While I work on that, I think we're going to shift our order a little bit. So maybe Adrienne, if you want to come in and do a little invocation, guided visualization. We're shifting a little bit because I have to tend to some back end.
That's wonderful. I would love to help out with that. And thank you so much for having me. What a powerful energy today in this group. And I just love what you said about this description of the water and how that fits the people that I speak to, SuperNova souls, this rare and purified soul. And just like you described in that description of the water. So let's take this opportunity to just arrive here right now in this moment. And just anchoring in, imagining that you can begin gently and at your own pace to open up to the beautiful intimacy of the primary waters, the waters in the earth. The waters in the earth are the source of all waters. And yet they don't want us to know that it's even there. So just taking a few deep breaths. When you first come into the field of this primary water deep in the earth, it's something quite delicate and intimate, a shyness, an approaching a goddess, a most beautiful energy. And when Russell Anderson introduced me to the concept of primary water, I said, oh, this is the mother that's been speaking to us, saying, bring them home to me. And so we reach into the earth, just imagining at the root, the base of your spine, at your root chakra, that you also have a root system, just like your most favorite and precious tree. The trees serve a very important role energetically, a grid of energy for every species. And what species is speaking to you tonight? What tree do you want to stand tall as the tree of life in your own field, in your own being? And just taking a few deep breaths and imagining putting down this root system into the earth. Just right from the base of your spine. Imagine your lymphatic system and your nerves and your blood vessels and everything, capillaries just moving along and moving through your body, but then reaching beyond your body. You know, the most powerful body we have is our energetic field. It's like a invisible representation of every single part of our physical body. And so just imagine this root system and this field reaching into the earth and inviting your field to come into communication with Mother Earth. And this is also an invitation to this field of energy of the primary water. It's a feeling that you can't really put into words, but let it come up and around you and hold you. We're going through a planetary rebirth. And how can we do that without our mother? And so just imagine resting in her arms, that not only do you have a root system deep into the earth, but now you sink down into this root system. The primary waters are the innocence and the feminine child of earth and the grandmother, reaching and yearning for us to speak to her. And so just sink into this field, this intimacy, this love. Imagine that you're sinking through the root system deep into this pool of primary waters, immersing yourself totally and completely. And just like Reya talked about, we recognize that the water has consciousness and we can talk to it, but when do we ever listen to the water? And imagine yourself held like the arms, the wings of the mother of Isis, the mother of all goddesses, circling us right now as these deep mysteries are unfolded from under the earth, the ancient wisdom underneath the pyramids unfolding, telling us that this is a time that has been prophesied since the beginning, and that now the ancient wisdom is ours again. And this elaborate ancient wisdom lives simply and in purification and innocence in the primary waters of the mother. Rest here and imagine these wings of Isis, big, fluffy, white wings of Isis holding you. And rest here for a moment and listen to the waters. And what is the message for you today? The energy of the water is movement, just like all creation energy. We can access the magic and the power when it's in motion. Feel this gentle lapping like the ocean on a calm day up against the the sandy shores or the grassy shores of a mountain lake. Just this gentle rhythm inviting you into the flow, the connection, the love we've all been looking for, everything we've ever wanted. The religious constructs of our world of the past age of religious persecution have kept us from being in connection. And we all need something to fall back in love with. And so we come to the waters, we come to the mother, and we speak and we receive. We're heard and we listen. And just feel this beautiful intimacy, this deep and profound peace, a time outside of time, and yet a quickening, an excitement of the birth that's to come, that you're playing a crucial role in. Thank you so much. The water lovers, the SuperNova souls, the conscious light beings. You won't even believe what you've accomplished. And what an honor to be here in this moment, the Spring Equinox 2025 together. Just taking a few deep breaths, feeling that root system deep into the earth, flirting with this field, this love of the mother, this deep peace and intimacy. And just finding yourself here as a conscious witness of this birth, a member of this very special soul group. And thank you so much for being here today.
So beautiful, Adrienne. What a beautiful pulling us in to the awareness of the present moment and the relationship and the dialoguing that's occurring. And this is the time that we are in now, time where the truth is percolating through the ethers, where the conversation of wisdom is emanating through the trees and on the wind and in the sunlight. It's nothing that can be kept from us, locked in a tower or a book or someone else's wisdom teaching. This is the time to remember that we've always had direct access. This is when our access gets turned back on. All wisdom from all time is contained in the energetic field of the earth and in our energetic field. And we open the conversation when we listen. We open the conversation when we give. And this world has been built over the last several thousand years upon an imbalance of the yin and the yang principle. The yin and the yang is the masculine and the feminine, is the fire and the water. It is in equal balance that life is created. And yet, in the shaping of our world, we have ignited the fire element with such intensity that we have deforested our planet, wreaked havoc, caused so much pollution, and decimated the wild spaces on our earth. Currently, our planet has about 3% wild places. So at this time, at the shift of this era, the dawning of this spring equinox, we are holding the space for a world where we act as well as listen, where we praise the magnificence of the fire element, we praise the magnificence of the masculine, and we welcome in the Great Mother. We welcome in the water. Because our bodies are 70% water. Our world is 70% water. Someone asked me recently why we do all this work with water, more so it seems than other elements. And as I was meditating on that question, what came through is that we're 70% water and our world is 70% water. So it's the makeup of who we are. And the divine intelligence that operates through us, our body wisdom, the health of our ecosystem, that is imprinted in the field of relaxation of our nervous system and deep listening. So I think so we can stay in this beautiful vibration that Adrienne opened us into, that we'll share a song, and then we'll welcome David Wolfe into the space.
You guys ready for a song? Me too. I always feel more warmed up after a song.
So I love it when we all sing along. And the words are, "O Great Spirit, we give our gratitude and praise." And such a powerful carrier of our intention is vibration. So feeling the love in our hearts and sharing that love through our voices, through the vibration of our song. Oh, Great Spirit, we give our gratitude and praise. Oh, Great Spirit, we give our gratitude and praise. We give our gratitude and praise. Oh, Great Spirit, we give our gratitude and praise. Spirit of the East, Spirit of the West, Spirit of the North, Spirit of the South, come, 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 come. Spirit of the East, Spirit of the West, Spirit of the North, Spirit of the South, come, 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 come. Spirit of the East, Spirit of the West, Spirit of the North, Spirit of the South, come, 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 come. Oh, Great Spirit, we give our gratitude and praise. Oh, Great Spirit, we give our gratitude and praise. Repeat after me. Spirit of the earth, Spirit of the water,
Spirit of the earth, Spirit of the water,
Spirit of the wind, Spirit Spirit of the sun,
Spirit of the wind, spirit of the sun,
grandmothers, grandfathers,
grandmothers, grandfathers,
come, 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 come.
come, 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 come.
Spirit of the earth, spirit of the water,
Spirit of the earth, spirit of the water,
spirit of the wind, spirit of the sun,
spirit of the wind, spirit of the sun,
grandmothers, grandfathers,
grandmothers, grandfathers,
come, 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 come.
come, come, come.
Calling the Galactic Federation,
calling the Galactic Federation.
we are the Rainbow Nation.
We are the Rainbow Nation.
This is the end of illusion,
This is the end of illusion.
'cause we remember who we are.
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 Together, we remember who we are. 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 We remember who. Sing any part.
We
Oh,
remember.
Great
We
Spirit.
remember.
We give all
We
gratitude
know
and praise.
we
Oh,
are.
Great Spirit, we give all gratitude and praise.
Remember who we
And a blessing for you. May your favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family and your children and their children and their children. May your favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family and your children and their children and their children. May your favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family and your children and their children and their children. Oh, great Spirit, we give all gratitude and praise. Blessings. Thank you. And so we'd love to invite in
Good to see you, Luthi.
David Avocado. And just to check in, was the sound okay on that? Were we maxing out or anything?
Sounded beautiful.
Great.
Great.
Thank you. So we'd love to invite in David Avocado Wolfe.
Greetings, family. Thanks, Reya. That was beautiful. Wow, what a great song. That was deep. All right. Well, I'm over here in Kauai. I just got done traveling the Big Island in Maui. And so when I got to Maui, this is one of the great things that if you don't know, one of the great things about Hawaii is you can get access to some of the most powerful living waters. Even if you're disabled, you can get into the rivers there right off the highway, right off the Hana Highway. And so I have a number of friends who live in Huelo there and been hanging out in that area for about 30 years. So even after all those years, I went to a waterfall and a pool and everything that I'd never been to before. Real close to Paia on the north shore of Maui. If you know Maui, very close to Kahului, for sure within 20 miles. And what a neat experience that was. Now, this is, an incredible laboratory here in Hawaii. You've got these rocks sticking out of the ocean that are 2/3 of them are under the ocean. So that gives you an idea of how deep the oceans are out here. And the 1/3 sticking above. And Haleakala just pans that water right off, and it's coming right to you very quickly. So there's not a lot of clay on that island. There's not a lot of farming up country. So it just gets right there, and it's kind of almost original Manna rich luminescent form. I took a picture. It was luminescent. The water's luminescent. What can you say? But getting into it is a whole nother level. And so it's really important to not only engage in water, let's stay hydrated. If the horrors persist, but make sure you drink water. That stuff. And it's important to, bathe every day and clean your body, but it's also important to get into wild water all year around and figure out a way. When I get back to Ontario, I'll be in Ontario, Canada, in about a month, and we'll be going into, and just basically the lake next to us, it starts to melt. And so the ice cube gets smaller, but it's still there. And so we kind of carve a little area out where we can go in and just squat down in the shallow part of the lake. And it gradually gets deeper and deeper. And eventually you can get out there and swim next to the big ice cube. These types of things have a very profound effect on your consciousness. They have a very profound effect on your health. And they have a very profound effect on your metabolism, just getting you up and revved up and going. So cold water, as I learned way back when, has a lot more energy in it. We don't think about it that way. When you think about the primary waters that are pushed up by hot springs, well, okay, they're being pushed up by heat. But do you feel more charged up when you jump into ice cold water, or when you've been in a hot springs for 3 hours?
I think you're right. I think so.
See if you can turn on your video.
Sorry.
Sorry about that.
Definitely cold water.
Cold water, right? So the idea there is it has more available energy for you. And so when I'm in Hawaii, I only take cold showers here all year round through the whole thing. And it's for that reason. It's like normally with the heat, you get kind of lulled to sleep. It depends on where you live in the world. But there's a time where you want to get energized, get revved up. And water is a very important part of that process. And getting into cold water, it's been a tradition for us for 30 years, but it's become big now. It's a thing, right? Cold plunging. And this is thanks to Wim Hof. He really put that on the map. But for all those years that I traveled the world, that was a part of the thing that we did. We would find out where the local springs are and get the water coming out of the earth as it comes out of the earth. Findaspring.com, findaspring.org. Check it out. Go put that on your browser. Make sure you check that site out. That's a free resource that we created over many, many years for anybody all over the world to find free spring water coming out of the earth. It doesn't mean that every spring there is, like the one in Staten Island. I don't know if I'd drink out of that one. But it's there. And there's one right coming out right on Wilshire Boulevard, right? It's actually Uni High School, where the Doors went to, if you remember that story. Anyway, it's right on Barrington. There it is, Barrington and Wilshire. And you come down Barrington south off of Wilshire, and it'll be on your right-hand side. And there's a school there, and you can actually see the springs bubbling up out of the ground in the parking lot, right there in the middle of LA. Now, again, I don't think I'd drink that water, but there it is. And so these kind of things are all around us. So it's tuning in back into the magic of what's all around us at all times is a big part of this water consciousness. And there's different types of waters that come out of the earth. Now, when we're dealing with something like what's happening with Haleakala, when you have like a volcano busting through the ocean, comes up like this. So it's like a shield volcano. And what we've found through the research on geology is that the water is pulled up in a lens. The primary water is pulled up into a lens up above the brackish water. So when you have an island like this island, Kauai, that's been sheared by tidal forces on the North Shore up here, there's springs that come out of the rocks here because that lens on the North Shore where the tidal forces have sheared the island have cut into that lens. And so the water bleeds out. You're also going to find that same primary water will come up in the top of the mountain where the crust is the thinnest. Let me just say that one again. The crust is the thinnest at the tops of mountains, and that's why the spring water comes out there. The primary water, there's different types of springs. We'll get into that a little bit. But the primary water springs come out, you'll be at the top of Haleakala, and there's water coming out of the rocks. And you're like, where's that water coming from? It's coming out as primary water. The crust is thin, plus it's attracted to the heavens, so it pulls it literally out of the earth. The heavenly forces, the positive charge of oxygen in the atmosphere, pulls it out. It's not being pushed out because the water itself, if you touch it, is colder than the ground is. That's an important investigation, is that why is the water colder than the ground is? How's that even possible? Shouldn't it just be by diffusion the same temperature? But it never is. And the better quality spring water always is even colder, much colder than the groundwater, which is usually in Fahrenheit between 56 and 58 degrees Fahrenheit. Anywhere in the world, you dig in the ground 10 feet, that's the temperature. But spring water is colder than that. Now, of course, cold spring water, not hot springs. Hot springs water is being pressurized out. This lens, then, it gives rise to a very quality experience of water, drinking, bathing, nourishing, and being in it is really something that charges you up. So the primary water occurs where there's been an old, say, continental shelf, and then the volcanic material blows through it. And in that seam where the crust is thin, where the volcanic material came up in, that's where the water will seep out. You'll see things like this, Mount Warning, for example, in Mullumbimby and Byron Bay, Australia. You'll see that kind of thing. You'll see it in the whole perimeter, the crater on that perimeter. There's all kinds of spring water coming out. Plus, right in the middle, with the old caldera, the old center of the caldera, which is Mount Warning, all loaded with spring water. I saw something very interesting there because you go up and down and hike that mountain. When you get to the bottom, there's a lot of little pebbles like this big, and they're all the same like that, but they're different colors. And generally, we're looking at, there's a Bill Gates mosquito.
Get it.
Get it. He got away. Oh, there he is. I want to show you guys this. This is amazing. I saw one earlier today.
Is it particularly small?
Yeah. Well, no, these are big ones. They're bigger.
Oh.
There he is. Okay. They like screens. Okay, I got him. Okay.
Yeah, I've seen the Bill Gates mosquitoes here in the mountains in the wintertime. Really small. So I've never seen them here until last year.
Oh, interesting. Anyway, he got smashed, but anyway, that's the mosquito that was supposed to stop mosquitoes, and it's just at some point you go, oh, it's just all lies. That's another story. Anyway,
For sure.
Back to this, there's no lie in nature. I had a great conversation with a friend of mine this morning about that. There's no lie in nature. A lie will not be held up in nature. So you get to the wild water in nature. There's no lie going on there. This is the truth. This is reality. And the way that springs come up in nature is teaching us a whole thing. There's so much there. Just on the primary water springs, which are found again where volcanic activity is busted through the old continental shelf. But there's other kind of springs, like the spring we have in the front yard here. It doesn't run until there's a lot of rain. It's a seepage spring. So when this mountain behind us here gets full of water, it fills up and eventually the clay can't hold any more water and it starts to leak out. That's called a seepage spring. That can also be good drinking water and can be a very important part of any farm because you get a certain amount of extra water that comes through your farm every year and you can direct it in certain ways. Of course, many people have done that throughout all history, knowing these things a little bit more closely than we do because we're a little domesticated with the screens and stuff. Then the other one is the type of spring that's created by the forest itself, where the water just pulls it's like a wicking effect and as the forest grows to the top of the mountain, let's say as glaciation happened, strip the mountain away, there's nothing left but rock. Gradually, eventually, soil builds up, earthworms, eventually bushes, and eventually plants, and then trees, and then it eventually moves up to the top of the hill or mountain, and then it's closest to this heavens. And so the wicking effect will pull it all the way to the top up there. And then at the very top, suddenly there'll be a swamp. And you'd be like, why is there a swamp? What about gravity? Gravity's supposed to pull everything down. What do you mean? Why is there a swamp at the top of the mountain? How could there be a swamp up here? But yet that's how it is. And many people in Appalachia figured this out long ago, and they box in parts of that swamp where there's a particularly strong bubbling happening of a forest spring, and they direct that into their home or into their farm. That type of spring is created by the forest itself. So one, we would say like a seepage spring is really created by the clay. The clay holds it, and then at some point it's too saturated and bleeds it out. The type of forest spring I'm talking about is created by the forest itself and all the wicking effect of all the roots and the way it restructures the soil. And that water moving up is coming right where the water's moving down underneath. It's doing that. So it's not coming from the primary place. Our primary water is actually coming from the earth, deep in the earth. It's coming from the waters that we're all sitting in, that the turtle of the earth is swimming in.
Hmm.
So that's the primary waters, and they're different in quality. So let me give you some examples of some things over the years that we noted about that. Primary water can have some significant amount of magnesium in it, or minerals, or calcium, all kinds of things in it, and definitely all kinds of strange matter. And I'll come back to that in a second. Seepage water is going to be, it's kind of a little dirty. It's been in the clay. It's a little bit mucky. It's like mud, but the mud eventually can't even hold it anymore. There's another Bill Gates mosquito. Suddenly the mud can't hold it anymore, and so it releases it and lets it go. And oh, look at you.
Get him.
And then that was a little more dirty, so that's great for farming and great for animals and things like that, because you're going to have a wet spot or a wet little creek for half the year, for example, like we have here. Then we get to the forest spring. The forest spring is completely filtered, so you'll have TDS of like 14 parts per million, 10 parts per million, 5 parts per million, because the water's been filtered by this whole entire forest itself, and so you almost have no particulate in that water at all, which is really interesting anywhere in the world. So let's say I'm in the Cordillera of California, where Michael Petrano's up there in Nevada City /
Grass Valley.
Grass Valley, and up there you're going to have more primary water because of the Cordillera of the Rocky Mountains. So that's where that has been thrust up, and there's been volcanic activity, and you're going to have a thin crust, and so the springs there will generally have like a high magnesium, high lithium. They could have high sulfur. They'll have high silica. They could be sticky or gluey, or not sticky, but slick, real slick. Like that's the silica, and that can be in both the cold water, and it can be also in the hot water, the hot springs water. But you go to another place, let's say a heavily forested region like New England, you're going to see almost all the springs there are of a completely different quality, and they're actually created by the forest itself. Not always, but I could be in the North Carolina mountains at the very top of the Pisgah Range, and there will be all primary water springs coming out. They've been coming out that way for however long it's been, because they were never glaciated. So they still are going. Those are insane. That's the best quality water maybe in the world, in the Pisgah Range of North Carolina, because of that reason. That system's been going all along. It's not a mix of things that are new, like the Rocky Mountains, however old things are. The Rocky Mountains are relatively new compared to Appalachia, and therefore there's going to be more mineral mixed in with it. And some springs actually in the Cordillera of the Rocky Mountains will be, won't be appropriate. Oh, now there's a bee. Yeah, come over here and get my mosquito. So the bees started coming out under the house. We have bees completely in this house, and they've been in there for almost 20 years. And there used to be an entrance at the bottom here where they'd come out close to us, because I got to walk by here to go into the jungle. And actually today I realized, they're coming out that hole again. They will chew into the house. They can chew through drywall, and we have to put cedar up and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the energy of bees, by the way, has a lot to do with also the hexagonal structure of water, according to, was it Dr. John and the hexagonal, what was the name of that book? The Hexagonal Water Secret, or something like that. If you look that one up, you'll find it pretty quickly. And anyway, the hexagonal structure that the bees play on determines how good a quality of the water. If there's more hexagonal structure rather than pentacyclic, 5-sided, more 6-sided, the water's better quality. All waters that come out of the earth are of great quality, though, because they've been structured and filtered by the earth itself, as long as you're not in Staten Island or in Wilshire Boulevard, Los Angeles, where God knows what chemicals have been used and dumped in the earth and been built over on top of, and all that kind of stuff, which does eventually filter in. And some of the biggest offenders there would be like dry cleaning. Dry cleaners, terrible toxins and chemicals that they release into the water table. Of course, there's what's the other one that's a real bad one? Well, of course, benzene from gasoline stations, right, and fuel stations. That's another terrible one that gets into the water table. But if you're the higher up you are, of course, the cleaner it's going to be, and the quicker it pans off. So the closer you get to the source, the higher up you are, the safer it's all going to be for all of us. And that's why we try to get you to the springs that are right there where the water's coming out, which will have no bacteria in it if it's primary water, and no bacteria in it if it's forest spring water. If it's muddy, seepage spring water, it could have bacteria in it, especially if the pigs have been in there, the animals have been in there, the Bigfoot's been in there, whatever's been in there. And that's why you'll see that, when it'll come out and seep out, and there'll be a lot of prints in it of all the animals because it has finally seeped out, but it's not enough of a flow to create a significant river effect. When a water, like let's say a forest spring water, comes out of the ground, it's so hungry for the heavens that it will actually multiply right there in front of your eyes. And you've seen that before, but because of the brainwashing and the television and all that, you're not believing what you're seeing in front of your eyes, which is it comes out as a little rivulet, and suddenly it's a creek, and then suddenly it's a river. And you're like, what's going on? It's water. It's called the water multiplication effect. The hydrogen that has come under the river, for example, or the creek that has gotten to the highest point, finally reveals itself. It mates with the oxygen in the atmosphere and forms the water right there on the spot. Very interesting phenomenon. And so that's another reason why, like a seepage spring is never going to be quite the magic of a real forest spring or a primary water spring. That's for sure. I got the wind on all this, and I got the idea of all this because almost 30 years ago, I was reading a Victor Schauberger book when I was doing a water fast. I was 4 days into a water fast. We just came out of the desert, and we were at hot springs actually, and we got all the way to the hot springs and realized we don't have towels, we don't have anything to stay the night there, but we had to stay the night because we had no flashlights, nothing. We were barefoot. Anyway, we did that. We got out of there, came back the next day. I read this book about Victor Schauberger, and I was like, wow, this is really interesting about spring water. And his thing was you have to go to the source of springs and investigate the mystery yourself, and then you'll see what's going on. Eventually, you'll come to your own conclusions about it. I've been doing that since then, almost 30 years. And I'm telling you, it's one of the greatest things ever. It answers the mystery of, like, how is a tree raising up you see this tree right behind me, that yopo tree? How's it raising up all that sap and all those fluids into that tree? It's not capillary action. That can only raise fluids 12 feet. That's much higher than 12 feet. That's easily right there. At that point right there is 25 feet, 30 feet up in the air. How are the fluids getting raised up into there? How are the fluids being raised up into the top of a hill on a spring? How come it's coming up at the top of the mountain? Why is it at the top? Why isn't it coming out at the bottom? And these things are all metaphors of each other. The tree is a metaphor of the whole spring system. Your whole body is a metaphor of the whole spring system. Where your inner waters meet the outer gases, that's the alveoli of your lungs. That's your springs. Your alveoli are the springs. And if you look at a tree, it's the stomata, where the inner waters meet the outer gases. That's the spring, the stomata, where the connection happens. And you'll notice that the stomata is on the bottom of the leaf, right? It hides from the sun. And that's a big thing about spring water activity. If I go up on Haleakala on Maui, the springs that really have great flow are on the north side, away from the sun, where they got some rock shade, and then eventually you can get some plant shade, and then they'll really start going. If they're coming out just, on the road up to Haleakala, you'll see them coming out of the rocks, but there's no protection. They're just exposed to the sun, so they can never really get going because the sun's pushing the water back in. We don't think about it that way. The moon's pulling the water out, the sun's pushing it back in. Right. So in a desert, the water's there, it's just been pushed in.
Right.
It's down.
Got to dig for it or call it up.
And that moon, boom, pulls it out. And so where those forces are in favor of the water coming up, north side, for example, in the northern hemisphere, south side in the southern hemisphere, then you're going to have spring activity, and large amounts of it, of both kinds. You could have both forest spring. You could have all kinds. Even seepage spring. Even the seepage water is going to come out where it's shady because it wants to avoid the sun, the same as your stomata. Same with your alveoli. Look where they are. They're all the way in here. They're in there. Why not? Why aren't they out here? Why not here or something? Because then they're getting hit by the sun. So the interaction of the inner waters with the outer gases is not going to have that suctional quality. And that's the property. It's a drawing, an attraction. It's a charisma. It's a magnetic thing. Go ahead, Reya.
David, this is so exciting. And I just love how you're talking about the conditions that pull the water out and that the sun pushes it back in. How metaphorical for the way that the Western world has operated. It's been like this predominance of the fire element, perhaps not making a suitable environment for the water element to thrive. It also makes me think of this story I heard recently about Miriam, the sister of Moses. And, we all have heard about Moses. He came down from the mountain with the 10 Commandments. Well, apparently there was Miriam, Moses, and Aaron. They were siblings, and they each had a power that helped the Israelites through the desert. Miriam had a well that would follow her everywhere, and that's how the Israelites would drink. Moses had the manna from heaven, or maybe it was Aaron who had the manna from heaven. But, as I was being told this story, I felt like she was supporting somehow the conditions for the waters to rise. And I feel like we can do that now. And perhaps that's what we're being called to do, as a collective.
You're right on. It's very metaphorical, right? It's like, it's been way too solar oriented, right? And so like the Gregorian calendar, oh God, have we just finally had enough of that? It's so like overlaid and pushed on, and it's like, how about we go to a moon calendar and start drawing and attracting rather than pushing into things, right? It's so metaphorical in that way.
So profound.
We're in that change right now. I was talking to a friend of mine about this morning about where are we in the change of the ages. And we both come to the same conclusions from similar readings, actually, which is Sri Yukteswar, who is one of Yogananda's great teachers, actually, the great yogi, and his great book, The Holy Science. And Yogananda took it from there, that the Kali Yuga ended in 1899. That was also Rudolf Steiner's position, that we went through a long period of incarnating people who were completely captured by materialism, and really, like, for example, hey, let's go work for money. It's like, okay, all right, but what are you going to do with the money? Oh, we're working for money. You know what I mean? Like things that just don't make any sense. That's very Kali Yuga kind of stuff. And so now it's what Yukteswar said is that from his time, which is 1899, 1900, it's about a 300-year transition where we start going back to these long golden ages. The Kali Yugas are shorter and the golden ages are longer. And that's what gives rise to civilizations that could have built these incredible monuments of India or Egypt or Peru or anywhere around the world, where you're like, how in the world did they organize people to build these incredible monuments that have withstood thousands of years of chaos, humanity, and Kali Yuga even? Right? I always think about that. I'm like, oh, I know how. Is that they just were incarnating different beings then that were just closer to the light. They weren't taken over by, how many dollars in my bank account, or materialistic explanations for everything, or whatever.
So amazing. And what keeps coming to my mind as we're having this conversation also is the work that you do with water fasting. And I would love for you to talk a little bit about that, because it almost seems like a way to activate that intelligence of water within our own bodies.
Thank you for that. And wow, what a metaphor that is, and what a beautiful thing it is to let your body produce its own water. We know that the human body produces its own DDW water, deuterium depleted water, which means that you're like that water multiplication effect I was talking about. Your body does that. Your body does that. It can multiply and create its own water. Now, we're all in different various levels of health and age and history and all that thing. So this is just my story, and this is the prep that I think it takes to get to where I'm at with this. It's taken me 30 years of water fasting to get to a point where 4 times a year, I do 2-week-long water fasts. And in a given year, I'm in a scene, I have to fast. This is my 55th year. So I have to fast 55 days on water this year. And I'm just committed to that. And I've been committed to that for years now, so I just find a way to get there. There's been years where I got to the end of the year and I was like, I'm going to be fasting right through December. It's going to be rough. But those moments where you're really deep in it, 10 days, 20 days, 30 days in, that something magical is going on that doesn't fit our little abacus, scientism description of like, oh, you need this much water or this or that. It doesn't fit any of that. And in fact, where you end up getting to with, again, this is my long history of doing this. So my fat, I know, because I've seen it against people who have had their fat taken out fresh, who are my age, and my fat, because of the fasting and cleansing, is pink and glows, and it has the look of what a human being's fat's supposed to look like, against other people the same day who had their fat taken out. This is for stem cell research, and their stuff looked like it had soot in it. I mean, it looked dark and like dirty, and I was like, my God, now I understand what's happened to the human race from all the chemicals in the water, the air, the food, and everything else. It's basically turned our tissue volume down of the luminescent quality that we're supposed to have. Does that make sense? And so
Oh.
I've worked down to a point now. Now I know for sure because I've seen it with my eyes that, oh, okay, that's what the fasting has done for me. That the fat that I have is healthy and it looks healthy. And therefore, when I fast, I can fast long periods of time and not be up and down and all going through all the chaos. I just have to kind of put that point out because people go, oh, I'll never be able to do that. Yeah, you could do it, but you have to work at it. It's not, you can't just do that on day one. You have to work into it step by step. And then eventually you get into the later days of the fasting, 20, 30 days in, where you go, my God, I don't actually want anything from the outside coming into my body. That's where you get to.
Now you have people join you, right? So did you just finish a fast, or do you have one coming up, or do you want
We're
you want
right
to
in the
share
middle
about
of
that?
one. Yeah, we do that. And if you want to ever join me on a fast, you could always just go to, davidwolfe.com or university.davidwolfe.com, WOLFE, and just click into a fast with us. It's like that right now it's like $88 to just join the group, and we're already in a group and we're already chatting, but we actually don't kick it off until May 8th. So if you get in now, you're way early. So it's kind of an early bird in the community. So for example, what we're doing is we're like, okay, it's time to get on the parasite herbs, right? Start getting those parasites out. I was with a friend recently. So it's all fun and games. It's all like, oh yeah, parasites, yeah, whatever. But I was over at a friend's house in Guadalajara the other day, and he's with us. So we got him on all the stuff. And guess what came out? A worm. So he brought me into the bathroom and he's like, what's this? And I was like, dude, that's a worm, bro. Worm just came out of you.
Wow.
Now think this through, everybody. This is a very important thing about water. Water is by far the most important nutrient, and it's by far the most dangerous. Contaminated water kills more people than anything else. Contaminated water is the most dangerous thing. So what is that? It's a consciousness change, because number one, you can decontaminate water with your consciousness. Two, you can decontaminate water with the consciousness around how the water is even getting to you and flowing there and all that. And just step by, if you take that out in every metaphor in every direction, you see how we've gotten ourselves into these Kali Yuga troubles with water, and with water being a vector for troubles. But it's also the healer. And eventually when you get hydrated, which is water and the sea salt together, that's the really important lesson I learned over the years of fasting. So you make sure you have electrolytes and you have both, because you're not an ocean, but you're also not a spring. Your waters are salty. They're in between. And you got to find that balance is different for each person. You have to find out what it is. And when you find it out, you're hydrated. You actually don't need to drink water. You're like, oh, everything's good. I'm peeing every 2 or 3 hours. You're balanced. And when you get there with the fasting, then you're like, okay, I don't actually want anything coming in, because you realize you're creating your own nourishment from your own self-nourishing community of cells, and your own water from your self-nourishing community of cells. And that evidence is there. And the Russians really, I would say, were the ones who figured that out in the 1950s, about 1950s to 1970s. They did a lot of work on dry fasting and getting the high deuterium water out of the system, which is basically radioactive water. There's always deuterium in all water in the world, but in certain places it's higher. For example, any municipal water, my God, it's just very high in deuterium and tritium, very dangerous. And that's why I won't even drink that no matter what, even if it's been distilled 10 times or I won't even touch anything from that environment, because of that reason, because you can't distill it out.
Thank you.
Yeah, David, dude, you're just dropping some serious bombs here. I really appreciate it.
And we benefit so much. So the last time we did one of these water events in the fall, you talked a lot, and I ended up doing one of your parasite cleanses for 5 weeks. I have a singing school, and was telling them about it, but also one of our members, Louise Dara, she's in New Zealand. She's been in our chat telling everybody about water fasting. So, just thank you for the ripple effect that you have that you don't even know of. And just, thank you for the work that you do in the world and bringing attention and awareness to these topics. And, so many things that you said I loved so much, but one was you have to go to the spring and the information will be revealed. Yeah. And I feel like that is the teaching of this time, is that don't take my word for it. Like nature is available, is inviting us into communication and desiring our connection and our presence, and has so much to show us, and different for each person. You know, we each have our own kind of receptor cells to the wisdom of the universe. So it's important for all of us to listen, not only one person. And I think the mistake we made in the past is there was one expert, he came down from a mountain, he wrote a book and he said, this is the way to do it, but not recognizing, you know, he only had certain receptor cells. And so now here we are coming back together as one body, as one consciousness, and all contributing. And just thank you for being a leader and a way shower.
Right on. Thank you so much for that. And just to add that free resource, everybody, findaspring.org. Please use that resource. What a resource and what a project it's been for all of us who've been behind it for 20 years. You know, it's a gift to the world. And then I will say one last thing about all of this, and that is, you know, there's something, you know, very profound about fasting, and it's a very important human activity, which is mind over matter and spirit over matter. And we're supposed to, as a human being, you're supposed to at times in your life assert spirit over matter. It's like one of your human traits. It's a human skill, and it's one of the ways to do that. So I recognize that as being an important human activity.
Yeah. Yeah, brother, I so deeply appreciate you sharing always, and what you have so much. It always amazes me what you're able to channel through. You experience so much of the world, and you're able to just bring it back out and share with people. So you have such a brilliance in that way. I've always appreciated it so much about you, brother. I really do. And your heart especially, right? The intelligence. You share the intelligence. Thank you again, brother. Good to see you. We're going to play some music now, I think. Feel free to join us, hang out. I know that you've got other things going
Here
on.
with you. I'm here.
Yeah, awesome.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I'm definitely going to be going back over this and just listening to that part and dissecting it, probably turn it into a transcript and study it for a while.
Yeah. And, you know, so here we are, bringing us back to this present moment of the spring equinox, this day of the fall equinox, this day of equal dark, equal light. And to digest that beautiful transmission, we'll have a song. And then I would love for Adrienne to share a little bit about these times we're in astrologically. And then we'll share another song, and then we'll have Russell Anderson from Clearwater Vision come in and talk about his work with primary water and structured water. And so
heading over to the piano, are we?
I think we're heading over to the piano.
We're switching rooms. You get to go on a different kind of a journey with us.
We're having a little tour. So yeah. So from the stringed instrument is easy to sit there with, and then here Michael's going to play us something on the piano. So we're going on a little walk. Okay.
Yeah, I have to kick it down. Let us know if can you hear that?
Well, I'm sure that they can hear that.
Yep. I'm going to try not to drown her voice out.
Let's turn it down a little. So this song came out of our communion with the light, with the divine intelligence, out of which we're born. We're born out of the combination of light and water. And so to be in our fullness, this calls forth the light as the organizing principle of chaos, of the wisdom that brings us back into right relation with all parts of our world. At the end of a long dark night, I beheld the great light, and I lifted my voice to sing your praise.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adrienne.
Were you guys able to hear that okay? The piano wasn't drowning her out, was it? Okay.
I think we're going to share one more and then move into Adrienne.
And just so you guys know, I've been on a writing retreat or a writing sabbatical for the past week and a half, and I just got plucked out of my space and dropped right into this space, and I'm here on the journey with you guys. I'm not sure what songs we're doing, so until we get into them.
This is for spring. In the home of the new blessings show the way through with the love of you to renew. From the waters and the light, I reborn, and to love I am known, and to grace I come home. Truth be told, love take hold and awaken our souls. Bless the earth, bless our rebirth. Praise to the Most High, praise to life. So, Adrienne, we would love for you to come and share your magic.
Wonderful. Well, I guess I feel called to talk on, a few times it was mentioned, the Kali Yuga. And I think in astrology, it's been kind of undeniable, the messages coming through right now that we are at the end and the beginning, you know? And because what's happening is that, at least in the tropical zodiac, which the Western zodiac, which is the same, the placement of the stars at the time of the last shift of ages, the Piscean age. And so we have to understand that this whole zodiac that we're working with, the tropical zodiac of the seasonal lining up, the map of this fits the last shift of ages. So in a way, we're in a paradigm, astrological paradigm of the Piscean age. And so when we move into the Aquarian age, we're sure to have a whole new perspective of what's going on. And that is exactly the message of the astrology. It's like, it's so new and different what's around the corner. We can't even comprehend or even really prepare. And yet we are being prepared. There is such a powerful shift in the planetary energies right now, going from Saturn, the black cube, the energy of control and manipulation of 3D reality, through the issues of Neptune, the delusions and lies, all of this resolving right now, because Neptune is moving into the sign of Aries after being in Pisces since 2011. So we have to kind of really think back to this chapter. And this last chapter has been about completely getting lost in the lies and delusions of our reality. And so if we're going to go and release ourselves from the Piscean age, the lies and delusions, then the message that's come through again and again is that we can't really move out of the Piscean age until we reclaim the miracles and the magic, because the Piscean age started at the time of at the birth of Yeshua. And basically what Rudolf Steiner talked about at that time is that Christ consciousness was, because of the events that happened, it wasn't just one person, right? He just represented, it was a whole group of people. I've had seen about 1,000 souls really working on that. But the etheric, Rudolf Steiner talked about the etheric energy, so the life force field of the earth changing at that time. So that was the first time that this Christ consciousness energy was available in the etheric field. Now it feels like a supernova souls. It's about doing what he could do and more, and embodying this Christ consciousness in our very own field. And this is the rebirth of the earth. And it feels like that's what astrology is saying to us. We're going through, and we're not going through it. We are the midwives. Those people, you guys here, conscious, thank you so much for being here, being present. You have no idea what it means to be a conscious human, just paying attention right now, and the power of that. And that we are birthing the earth, rebirthing ourselves and the earth. And again, the message has come in that the only way to get back to connection, the only way back to God, is through me, he said, Yeshua. But really, it's through the mother, isn't it? We all have to come back to the womb and be reborn. And the earth that's exactly what we're doing right now. And so what's happening in the practical happenings of astrology right now is that we have Venus retrograde, Mercury retrograde, and they're in Aries. They're going back to Pisces and then back to Aries. And that's the Aries point, this magical 0 point, which I like to think of as the Fool card in Tarot, the 0 card. And the Fool is walking off the edge of the cliff. And he's packed light. He just has a little knapsack. He's got his animal friend by him. He's connected to the elements, and he's in joy and levity. And who cares if he's walking off the cliff, because he's in trust. And so this is the place we're going. We're rebirthing the earth. Who knows what the exact process is that we're going through, except for that this is an earth ascension. She's our living, breathing goddess. We get to walk upon her, and it's her ascension. And so, yes, we aren't getting anywhere without her. We need to be, and that's the primary waters as well. And I'm just so honored to have Russell Anderson here, who introduced me to these primary waters, to this field of energy, which I found was exactly the voice of this mother, loving mother, that is inviting us, saying, please bring them home to me. And it's only in our connection that we can have this ascension, because it's her ascension. We get to hold her hand. We're a part of it. So again and again, this message that her body is our body. And so everything we've talked about tonight, honoring our bodies, detoxing, it's literally detoxing the planet. And so it's so beautiful to talk about all of this. And so the message with the South Node in Virgo, which is the Virgin, the birthing, the North Node in Pisces, we're completely reworking Saturn in Pisces, completely reworking the Piscean age, and birthing into the new, because of all of these planets going over the Aries point so many times. So it's a zigzag. We're going back and forth, to the new, to the old, to the new, to the old. But Mars is direct now. Mars just had a retrograde in Cancer. And so this is the key to all of it, is that our masculine, all of ourselves need to come back to the mother. But very powerful for the masculine to align with the this work today. What a powerful group for Isis to show up in such a palpable form in our meditation. And that means you all have a very deep connection to this energy, to the mother of all mothers and the mother of the earth too, and metaphorically and energetically. And so here we are coming back to these, what was foretold in the revealing of the Hall of Records underneath the pyramids, and this is the hallmark moment, an indicator, and according to Edgar Casey readings of the New Age. And so here we sit at this moment at the Spring Equinox 2025, where all these planets zigging and zagging, to the death, to the birth, to the death, to the birth, to the old trauma. No, we're going to go down into the dungeon a little bit, only so that we can completely let those old stories go and step into and be a part of living and breathing this new earth in this beautiful purification. So it's so wonderful to have these special moments with you. Thank you so much, Reya and Michael, for having us.
Wow.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Adrienne, you just blew my mind, and I so love your transmissions that you bring through. And do you want to talk about a little bit about the work that you do, and how people can find you?
I'm an intuitive astrologer, so I offer just a few individual intuitive astrology readings and also individual past life readings. I was first a past life reader and then got into astrology, kind of like, I don't know how I became a YouTube astrologer, but the last job you'd ever think you do. But it's such a beautiful way to jump off into all these concepts and bring all this together, because I'm a trained Waldorf teacher and studied Rudolf Steiner quite a bit, and also a classical homeopath. And so I'm just so honored to be here. But anyway, my website is adrienneelise.com, and I'm founder of the SuperNova Soul Tribe. Supernova Bright Light Souls, the true stars of this world ready to rise. So offering support for Supernova Souls. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Adrienne and I connected as part of this water group with Russell Anderson from Clearwater Vision, with Michiko Hayashi from the Emoto Peace Project, who couldn't be here today, regretfully, because she had another event. And it's just a beautiful time to come together in communion and solidarity with the water. And there's a comment in the chat that really caught my attention. And Josh Del Sol quotes a passage from Luke 22:7-13. Yeshua spoke in code about how to enter the next age, passing over in the house of the man carrying the pitcher of water. And it stuck out to me for several reasons, but one of which, so right outside we have a couple creeks flowing. And so when I was getting ready for the event, I was tuning in with the water, and I kept hearing this message about the water somehow protecting us is like the Passover. So the old Passover story was the lamb's blood was slain and put on the doorpost. So then the plague passed over whatever houses had the blood of the lamb. But something was coming to me today about this idea of the water being that source of whatever trials are to come, that will pass over those who somehow have been renewed in the water. So Adrienne, if you want to speak to any of that, or I just thank you, Josh, for writing that in the chat.
That's so powerful. Yeah, I can really feel that energy, because just like Russ introduced me to this, the primary water is a concept at first, and then it becomes real, and it's a field. And so when you tap into that field and you're in that place where time stops and all is quiet, and you can just feel that you're just rippling along the water, and the big body of water that can harmonize all, And so I think you're right on with that. The water, the blessing, the purification, carrying us through these times, like I'm thinking of St. Christopher carrying the children over the water, right? And somehow we'll make it home if we learn to play again, like you guys are helping us to do tonight.
Thank you so much. So beautiful. Yes. And I mean, with that, I'd love to segue into Russell Anderson. I connected with Russell in the fall, and Michael has known him for longer. And when Russell first spoke to me about water, it was like a homecoming. it was like I had never imagined. I mean, I've had a connection with water, but Russell just takes it to another level. Like he was speaking the language of my soul. And Michael, do you want to say anything about Russell?
Yeah. So Russell and I met a couple years ago, or actually maybe like 3 or 3.5 years ago. You came onto the PMA Weekly podcast, and I didn't know you at that point, and you were, and primary water was just in the tricklings of my awareness, and you brought it forward, and the way you speak, the way you speak of water, you don't necessarily speak about it from a scientific level. You're speaking completely from a spiritual level and a higher consciousness level, and that is the place you come from.
Even though he studied with Dr. Masaru Emoto and the guy who did the hydrogen machine. I mean, he studied with many brilliant science minds.
Yeah, and it's clear where you are. Your heart is, you're in the Christ consciousness. You're in the connected element and the higher awareness and the intelligence of the water, and you speak from that lens completely. And it's beautiful, and it's been a beautiful experience to have you in my life. And
Yes.
welcome.
We'd love to hear some of this magical wisdom about primary water. And
You,
you are well loved in this crew.
you, can you hear me now? I just don't.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Hey, you're great.
a password is not good for me. You know, I just couldn't get it.
What that is. Hey, you're here. That's all that matters.
Now, I just want to ask Adrienne if she got that message from Dennis Meehan. You know, because yeah, he was sent me a song that you would just love to sing. I think.
Hmm.
We don't know. I don't know the words of it, so I sent it over to Adrian. That
I
maybe
have those words. Maybe after you share with us, I can share those if you'd like me to.
could you do that? And if you just read that off, and we can just maybe find a way to sing it in the future and so on. And I think Dennis is here, so can you do that? Do you have that words?
Sure. Do you want to do that before you talk about the
I think
water, or
it will explain a lot of what
okay.
we're doing here and why
Let
music.
me grab.
Okay, so I just want to tell everybody I love you, you know, that if that's possible. But I mean,
Just happened.
when I met Michael, you know, it was like, you know, where is he? Where is he? He was telling me over his cell phone where he was, and we were at Clear Lake, and I didn't expect anybody to show up at all. And we got the 15 people. I think if you look into the dynamics of astrological and actually the dynamics of primary water. We got the exact number at Clear Lake, and we got to meet up with Jim Brown Eagle. And so this was a very important time for me, and I couldn't hold back my tears with Michael. I just couldn't. I didn't know what else to say about it, but it was
So
just so
fluid.
yes, yeah. And so we spent the weekend, and we froze our butts off and stuff like that at night, but having a good time. But more or less, I think what was going on here was a message from all the people around the world who are praying for water. And I'm not saying praying for water, you know, it was just a message that we have because water is alive. It wasn't really anything more than that. In a sense, all of science is the most beautiful thing in the world of learning science. And what we're relating and talking with, and I love this because listening to David was such a beautiful thing to do. But there's more even to add to that. It was all of us with a heart. And we all need to put the dots together, the physical and the spiritual together. It has to be done that way. And the era that we live in now is the most beautiful because we entered into Dwapar Yuga. This Dwapar Yuga is something that we should rejoice for. It's the age of Aquarius. And we are finally met this on this particular day. And I am so honored to be with you. Just honored to be with you.
Mm-hmm.
But the story goes, because for me, I just stumbled on this whole stuff because I was just a young contractor building houses, and all of a sudden the houses burned down in Oakland Hills, and I wonder what is going wrong. What was this happening, 30 years ago? And so I ended up meeting a person who told me that I was related to him, but he was twice as old as I was. And this person was connected directly to Yogananda. And what I had to learn from this one person, even though he didn't tell me who I was, or he didn't understand, I didn't understand what he was speaking of. And he said, you must continue what you're doing. And I only told him, I don't know what I'm doing. And that put me on a journey that I never forgot. I mean, I had to learn quite quickly, running a school, with an herb school right away, and then all of a sudden going on tour around the country, around this country, with a guy named Hugh Brown, running something. Who is Hugh Brown? Does anybody know who he was? And what did he do? He created this thing called the Brown's gas machine, and I wasn't included in any of the knowledge of all of this, but I had to learn it in a different way. And this is why I'm asking, can we do this? Because most of us don't know that the water of the earth, comes from within in the planet, but it even comes through the poles, as we speak in terms of Walter Russell or Schellenberger and so on. And we now know more things because some of us have experienced this. You wouldn't be here if you already haven't experienced it. And so we all experience it in different ways. So when I heard from this guy who was a direct disciple since 1933, and he met Yogananda, and he had all these psychic abilities, and he knew he couldn't unleash any of his psychic abilities to the rest of the world because there would always be somebody that would deny him because they didn't know enough back in 1933. But Yogananda knew. So that is touching to me. And just to meet you and talk about the technologies and I can only say that the reason at this point that we got to understand the reason why Clearwater Vision existed was because we knew that we had to bring the two firmaments together, upper and lower firmaments. And I'm so proud of people who have been praying for these days and this time, to understand there's another dimension to this. And it isn't about so much about what we know. And it won't be that way, that we only bring this together is because we know we have love for the earth and love for the universe. And it goes beyond that. And what we learn from, this ethers that come off from the sun, and what Hugh Brown said that the sun is water. How do you say that? How do you explain that to the world of science? And now that we know, even just a little bit of that knowledge, as what Yogananda said, he said, will bring you to heaven. And it is all about us. It is all about putting the dots together between upper and lower firmaments, but it's even explained in the world of science. When we divided many years ago, when the Constantine era came about, when we divided, we can say they did, but we literally divided spiritual from physical, just just because we needed control. The Constantine era set up, hey, listen, we're going to, divide church and state and we'll make our governments about that. We're not going to do that anymore. We're going to live about what water teaches us. And this is really, when it says in the first part of the Bible, you just read the first part of it and we would know why they read the rest of it, but the understanding that God put his spirit upon the water, to me, means that extra H and H2O is the spirit of God. And when you put the two worlds together, male and female, positive and negative, and so on, you put it together, you find the entity. The entity is the spirit of yourself. And when all of a sudden the water reaches the surface of the earth, it meets the sun again. In that journey, it yearns to be part of us. It yearns to be a part of who we are. And we develop techniques and so on that are so valuable, but yet if we do not have our spirit, we can't do them. Back in '96, I toured around the country with Hugh Brown, but there were other technologies that we always said we could have used. But something happened that we couldn't do that. We didn't achieve those things because our spirits weren't in line with the water. And now it is. And you're all here. Our goal here now is to bring the two worlds together. So we have both science and I'm not calling it religion, we're calling it spirit, because the religion was the wrong way to go. We burned thousands of witches, at the stake or whatever they did for us to get through this Kali Yuga years. And now we're here at the age of Aquarius. So it's not gonna stop. It's gonna come even closer to everything that we yearn for. And I remember just, being as poor as a rock. And I still had to find ways to make just a little trickle of money to be able to continue the process of going from city to city and to show people how to pour water in a machine and it comes out equal to the surface of the sun. Our goal is to find now that the original ways of these things happen. There have been many copies of the Brown's gas machine, and they are good, but we have to go further. We have to find the original, and we have to have the intent of the heart of ourselves. That's the most important thing for us to do that, just to show one simple example. I am so happy that we actually can make a machine, but the most important thing is it won't work for anybody except that you have an intent and you understand that water is alive, that it wants to be alive, it yearns to be alive, and it yearns for us to understand who she is and where she came from. And that tells us where we came from. I am just a person that was not able to understand the world of science, but I honor it completely. I'm just so happy to hear people talking about primary water.
Yeah.
It is such a wonderful thing, and I have to thank David for doing this and understanding it, but we have other steps we have to go to. We have to understand that as Jesus said, you will do mightier works than me. It can't work without us to have the spirit world here.
For sure.
And I love, the connection, because we're looking at the oldest lake in the Northern Hemisphere, which is in America. We're here in America, most of us here, unless we went to Canada to get away from everything. But, we're here to make a dent, and that's why I work on the oldest lake in this country. And Sophia is here, and she understands that because she's a Mayan. She came from another place in lower Mexico because she was with the pyramids. The understanding of that and how we put this all together. And we said, here's the oldest lake in America, and nobody knows what it is. And I'm just yearning for people to ask me questions about it.
Well, we can
So
say it's Clear Lake. It's, to just get the mystery just out of the dark.
yeah,
Yes. And you can imagine, can't you? You can just imagine if Lake Titicaca wasn't a dirty word, it was a real name, and that's what we're on. But the idea of putting the dots together, and this is what we've done through all this, from North Pole to South Pole, basically we have this area, America waiting to wake up. In 2010, I met with the Pachamamas, if I said that right, and they came to me and they said, "This is a time that we were talking to Dr. Emoto, and they came to our booth and said, "We're waiting for you to wake up, and America needs to wake up." And that's what we're here for. And so we're putting the two dots together.
And
And
Russell, I just want to say, like, as you're sharing, I so much can feel your heart, your beautiful heart. And it reminds me of a teaching I'd heard from the Caro tradition from the Andes Mountains of Peru about the spirit world, and access to the spirit world was gifted to a humble heart. So, we think that knowledge lives in the mind, but yet the pathway to have the field of wisdom revealed to us is through that heart. And we spoke before about singing and vibration being a carrier of intention. The greatest carrier of intention is love. Our words might steer the ship, but in the unseen world, we're known by the love and the light that we carry. And you have such tremendous light and such tremendous love. And I'm wondering if Adrienne had found those words and perhaps
Yes.
we can read them.
Which pretty much mirrors exactly what you were just saying. The heart waters arise from the heart divine. So this is a song, lyrics from a song written by Dennis in Maine. Russ wanted me to share it. He thinks it puts really nicely into words everything we're talking about. Deep in the well of the sacred design, the waters arise from the heart divine. Whispers of light in the current's flow, heaven's reflection in the rivers below. Pre-chorus, the breath of the sky meets the womb of the deep. Our Father's decree and our Mother's heartbeat. Lift the tide, raise the flame, honor our earth as we remember her name. Raise the waters, let them rise, celestial rivers in our eyes. Heaven within, heaven we see, divine communion flowing free. Words of creation, seeds of light, spoken in truth, restoring sight. We are the vessels, the rivers run, union of spirit, all is one. Bridge, the waters above, the waters below. A mirror of love, our eternal flow. The earth aligns, the stars ignite, the song of God, the sacred light. Out we walk as rivers, hearts set free, sailing the waves of eternity. Primary waters overflowing inside. We all now know it was always spirit that was our guide.
So beautiful. And that, we're coming to the end of our time. And, for me, the intention of opening this sacred space on this beautiful spring equinox night is for us to have to bring us into communion, with that heart, with that eternal love, with the mother of the waters, with that voice that speaks through. In the Kogi tradition from Colombia, the Kogi have a term called Aluna, and Aluna is cosmic consciousness. She's the great mother. She's the void out of which all things come. And she communicates to the Kogi through the bubbles in the water. And may we find our own means of deep listening and understanding. For the water exists outside of time and can show us and help us purify the past, as well as give us sight and vision into the future. And we're stepping out of this Gregorian time where time has been superimposed onto a very alive system. And in this space of stepping out of encumbrances and a kind of a contrived reality, we have the opportunity to see through new eyes, to hear through new ears. And the water has been telling me it's here to help us to learn how to do that, to purify us, to help us learn about group consciousness. And I would just love for Michael and I to share one more song, and then we'll do a closing with everyone. And so I invite you to connect in with the intentions that you're holding for this spring equinox. And feel your heart, and let's just connect in, with our body, with our center, and send a grounding cord down through our root to the heart of our Mother Earth. And with this grounding cord, send blessings to your location, to the lands upon which you find yourself, to the spirit of place that you inhabit. Sending love, letting that love, that connection just overflow onto these lands, onto this water. For we make the ground beneath our feet sacred by recognizing the sacred ground. We restore each other to sacredness by seeing the divine within each other's eyes. So may we take this moment to send that energy down to the heart of our Mother Earth, blessing the lands, and blessing her in her totality. And I think that I'll share screen so you can sing along if you'd like to. And we're gonna sing All That Is. And so you can see there it says all that is a little bit down the page. And under that it says Ahiaye. And Ahiaye means thank you in Apache. So we're saying thank you for all that has been, all that will be. And we'll start the song just with the all that is. All that is, 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 all that is. Heaven and earth meet in this moment for rebirth of its sons and its daughters and a new earth, born through our love, creator each other, our holy mother. We stand up, one for each other, and bridge the gap to our future. Remember. Sorry, I just have to look. There's so many things coming through the chat. I just want to make sure that you can hear us, okay? All the love that's within us, beside us, before us, behind us, we come back to the cause of it all and restore our way on forward and stand strong like a mountain, realizing that we are one with all that is, 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 all that is. Before me, I see the beauty of my story. I forgive the past that's behind me and see my future shining brightly. I love all that is before me. I see the beauty of my story. I forgive the past that's behind me and see my future shining brightly. Is all that is all that is all that is. So feeling deep gratitude in our hearts. And let's rub our hands together. Send blessings to the land. Send blessings to the waters. Seeing the waters in their original stainless purity. The waters of the world, the waters of our body, the waters within Mother Earth, the upper and the lower waters. And seeing yourselves at your highest, healthy, happy, whole, abundant. See your families blessed. And then take a moment to see everyone here blessed. It's said that in this time we are the saints and sages for one another. So blessing each other in this collective field, that if anyone here is struggling with anything or working through a challenge, we're adding our energy, our love, our light, our connection with Source to bring that matter to resolution, to bring the body to health, to bring peace to the family, to bring reunification to any broken relationships. And we give gratitude to all beings seen and unseen, known and unknown, on this equinox portal. Aho.
Aho.
Oh,
And it looks like David stepped off. So, I would love it if Russell or Adrienne, you'd like to add anything in closing. And if anybody has pressing questions, if you could write them all in caps and put them in the chat. We won't stay on for much longer, but we'd like to get any pressing questions answered.
Can I say one more thing about
Yeah.
yoga?
Yeah.
It's very precious to me. Clearwater Vision is only, been investigating this for 30 years, but we could only use this, through this intention that we have. And we studied the Ring of Fire from LA to Clear Lake. So the understanding that we could feed the world, with the Central Valley and its nutrients, for thousands and millions of years and so on, we can still undo that. We can still go back, never to and for no primary water that comes in from the Ring of Fire. So those mountains that have been traveled, by Yogananda going north, and he met up with a guy named Luther Burbank. And Luther Burbank and Edison and Ford knew each other 100 years ago, or more, actually. They were good friends. They were wonderful friends. The example to what could have been done, with Edison and Ford, to change their figures because of that third entity is really valuable and really important. So this is, if you study where he has lived, Luther Burbank, he was at the base of this place called Mount Kanakatai, and all that he called the most fertile land in the world. And the waters that came off of that mountain and the waters that came into the Central Valley and into their lives. I mean, can you just imagine the idea of making this country strong? Because any water is the cause of all of the economy. Everything is like that. So I'm just entering that into our brain a little bit, so we can reach our heart. But I'm so happy to be able to explain that to you, and thank you.
Thank you, Russell. And that makes me think of something that David Wolfe had shared, talking about the conditions being right for the water to rise. And so may we be guided to shift our own approach to the world. May the world as a collective be shifted to make those conditions right for the water to rise, the waters of love, the waters of kindness, the waters of unity consciousness, and the literal waters from within our Mother Earth, that we have no shortage, and we have a massive source of clean water, that we can create the proper conditions and then it can come to us. And that's also such a metaphor for ourselves as spiritual beings. Through purifying our vessels, we can create the proper conditions within our own being to receive wisdom, to receive love, to be conduits of grace.
We will change all of the deserts into beautiful land. It'll change everything. There'll be no people living on deserts. The economy will change. Everything will change. It's from this day forward.
Amen. And Adrienne, did you have anything you'd like to add in sum?
Thank you so much. It's such a wonderful opportunity and experience to be here. I can just feel the energy of all these souls conscious, loving the waters and being so present. And I think, Russ, it'd be great if you could lead us out with a little prayer.
All right, I'll do it my way. I mean,
I would have it no other way, Russ.
Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, Jesus Christ, all of the masters, all of the self-realized masters in the world, teaching us to be who we really are and not someone else. Looking forward to guiding us, take us into the world of knowing that we are all free. We are all human beings, not human doings. We offer what we do to you. We give you all the love because we know now who we are. We are loved because we learned to love from you, our Divine Mother. Please help us help the rest of this world. Help this country of America to wake up to the level of consciousness that we truly can be ourselves and bring us new lives inside. Om, peace.
Thank you, Russell.
Blessings. Thank you, Brother Russell.
Blessings. And thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you, Adrienne. Thank you, everyone.
Yes. And thank
Huge
you for,
love.
so much love. And for all of you who registered, we'll send out the recording of this event. And we're in this deep space of, in between these eclipses. The next eclipse is Saturday, the 29th of March. So I invite us to continue to commune with our intentions, continue to commune with our prayers. I see it as we're shifting timelines. And so with our prayers and intentions, we're directing which ship we get on. So take the time to remake yourself, to create the version of you that you want to see on the other side of this, and create the world that you would like to see. Go out, sing to the land, connect with the earth, make offerings to the forest. Take this time to build relationship with the spirit of place that you live in, with God through that nature. And it's said that inherent within us, we have a desire for fraternity, for connection. And it's that desire for connection that's fed from this innate knowing we have that we are part of the all that is. And there was a time when we lived in harmony with that all that is. And we're coming back into that time where just the sense that connection alone supports us, with ample time for creativity and connection. And so inviting back in the wisdom of the ages, the wisdom that's been lost and forgotten over time, inviting in that wisdom that may have been excommunicated from our world, and inviting in the Great Mother back to the table, back to the truth, back to our own hearts.
Clearwater Vision is having meetings now with scientists and so on, around the country and around the world. And we're basically doing this. We're having these meetings, and we'd like to invite everybody in the future. And I think we could all do this really because we have to make clear about what we're doing with the inventions and all of these things that are going on right today. I'm happy to invite everybody in this meeting, and we're going to be inviting you if you want to just sign up, or however you do it is all.
Yeah, Russell, if you give me the links, then I'll put them in the email that I send out after with the recording, so then people can join if they'd like.
It's clearwatervision.org.
Yeah. And so
somebody put it in the chat a little bit earlier. You guys could track it, but we'll also send it. There it is.
I don't want to leave anybody out.
Yeah, so everyone who registered here, you'll give me the information and I'll send it out to everyone, so everyone will have it.
I'm just an instrument. That's all I am, but the thing is, this is so important to the rest of the world, and I'm happy that Michiko is happy, and we've done all this work already, and we're waiting to give it to others, but we really have to deal with the science in the world and then give it to the rest of the world. That's what we have to do.
Yes. Well, thank you so
Blessings.
much, Russell. Blessings, everyone. Peace be with you, and we'll see you on the other side.
Blessings.
Be well.
Thank you. Happy equinox.
Happy
What a
equinox.
beautiful evening.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.